family, COVID, maybe you lost your job, you don't have enough time to make content and to upload every single day. We totally understand. Oh my gosh, do we understand? In this episode, we're going to tell you about 10 years of our trials and tribulations, battling against life and lack of money and lack of time to upload content, coaching creators that have made it full-time and become superstars, and what successful people do to push through those hurdles, to push through those moments where you just kind of want to give up because your channel's not growing, to push through those moments where you're not making enough money and you don't know where to spend your time and you're kind of confused, to push through those moments where you feel like the algorithm is against you or there's some kind of YouTube bug. We've heard all of it and we have solutions to every bit of it. This podcast is sponsored by Restream. Why live stream to one platform when you can simultaneously live stream to every platform to discover new audiences faster using Restream.io?
Start off with my current challenges because I think you will all relate a lot with this right now. As you might know, and we talked about this a bit on the cast, but I'm doing a Facebook gaming channel. I'm doing a YouTube. I'm doing Twitch. I'm multi-streaming to all of them. I'm primarily doing a multi-stream approach. I'm streaming, including this podcast, about 7 to 8 hours a day. Plus, I've got clients on the side and at least a part-time job, sometimes more. And I'm running into getting burnt out on not having enough time in the day to get the stuff done that I want to get done. For example, I would love to do YouTube videos every single day. I would love to be able to do that. I don't have the time for it right now. I would love to put more thought and time into my thumbnails. I'd love to put more thought and time into my stream concepts so they're more entertaining and more event oriented. There's so much I want to do and I am not finding myself having the time to get to it. And that is one of the ways in which, my team, AWOL here and Ross, have noticed me being frustrated. Have any of you run into this before? In our 10 years of doing this kind of stuff, guys, have we run into this before? And if so, how do we solve it? Because right now, I'm kind of forgetting how we did it.
Ross.
We run into this quite often, but it's weird. And I was just trying to think of a way to respond to that because every single one of these situations is different. There are different elements that go into it that make it more difficult than other times we've experienced this. So I know in my past when I run into situations where I do not have time to get out the content, literally as of recently, just like you trying to get out episodes of the podcast, my other podcast. And it's with everything going on, it's been time consuming and it's demotivating because I think you get going, you get in this regular pattern like you do, Perrin, of you're streaming twice a day and you get in that pattern and then something comes up and then something else comes up. Next thing you know, your schedule's different, or maybe you're trying to experiment to find something and you're off of that schedule that you had set yourself to. And once you get far enough off that schedule, you just start looking back and it just becomes harder and harder to go back and grab that and get back into that schedule and get back into that routine. And especially if life is not slowing down, it can make it incredibly difficult to try and pick that back up. So the way that I've been able to do that in the past, which many, many times I've unsuccessfully done in the past, is at some point you have to put yourself first and you have to clear out everything that you're doing to focus on what your motivations are, what's driving you. That means putting everything else away for however many hours and getting back into that routine. Humans are creatures of routine, just like animals are creatures of routine. When you break that routine once and then you break that routine again, the more you break it, the harder it is to get back into it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of times when you have to break that routine. So that, I think the question becomes, how do you get back in the routine of doing that? How do you get back into the routine of motivating yourself on a regular basis? And, I think it kind of comes down to everybody's different. How you handle it is going to be different. AWOL, how do you get back into a routine of creating content when you've been out of it for a while, essentially?
Yeah, it's really difficult. You got to shake the rust off. And I've been through this so many times over the last 11 years, essentially 12 years of making content on YouTube. Had a night job and I had to come home and make content 12 years ago on YouTube or 11 years ago on YouTube starting at 11:30 p.m. through 5 a.m. And so obviously I was tired and a lot of those nights I just wanted to hang out and do absolutely nothing. But the thing that I always kept in mind every step of the way is I constantly re-examined, what am I doing in my life that makes me happiest? Which moments am I the most satisfied? Which moments am I like in like a flow state where time just melts away? And those times are creating videos, doing editing, doing research, pulling together all the assets, and then releasing something on the internet. Those are the times when I'm actually the happiest in any type of work or any type of interest, more than playing video games, more than any other specific interests I've had in the past, like becoming a professional poker player, whatever it is. And so I always remind myself of that because life is really short. We're all going to die very, very soon. Have you ever talked to an old person or your parents? You know what they tell you? Time accelerates. Time flies by faster. They say, it seems like it was just yesterday that you were a kid or you were a baby, because it literally seems like that to them. They're not just saying that for fun. And I've noticed as I've gotten older that time becomes more and more valuable and it slips away faster and faster. So how do I want to spend my life? I want to spend every single moment of my life doing what makes me happiest and most fulfilled. And that is creating content. And so if I can remind myself of that simple fact, the limited amount of time I have on Earth, and how I want to have absolutely no regrets at the end of the road on how I spent my time and what I did with my life, then that helps me. That helps me. Reminding me of that basic fact every day reminds me that tonight, that means sitting down and making this video. Tonight, that means sitting down and doing this research. That reminds me that instead of binging that Netflix show that everybody's telling me I should be watching, I'm going to go actually up to my office while everybody else, 99% of people, are off doing something recreational that makes them happy. I'm going to do what makes me happy. It's all about self-awareness about what makes you happy and truly motivated. And if creating content isn't your favorite thing, then you're not cut out for this. Then you should just maybe make it a side project, make it a hobby, and you shouldn't have that expectation of yourself to be able to create content every day unless it is literally your favorite thing to do in the entire world. Otherwise, it's just going to be a hobby. And I can tell you from every very successful content creator I've coached, all of them have the mindset where if they didn't create content, they would be this ball of anxiety and depression. They would completely fall apart at the seams as a human being. If they weren't making content every single day, they need it to live and to like be okay mentally and emotionally. Those are the kinds of people that become the PewDiePies, that become the multi-million subscriber channels, because they are compelled to make that content. And in some ways, it's like mental health and emotional medicine for them to make that content. Are you that kind of person? If not, then it should just be a hobby for you. And maybe you shouldn't be looking to make this a full-time thing. Because unless you need it badly in your life, then it's really hard to put something in your life every single day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was really, really good. I want to make sure we cover this from the angle that's probably the most relatable from creators. And it's the angle of, I've been grinding videos. Oh, that's great. What you just said's great. Yeah, I love making content. I love making content every day. I do it all the time, but I'm not growing. And it's been months. Hell, it's been years in some cases. And let's say this is the scenario. Like, so in my channel, I'm running into this in a little bit lately now, is I've been grinding quite successfully for like a couple of months, and I've hit like a plateau where the growth isn't nearly as exciting. And I know it's going to be like a longer haul from here. So, it's a matter of like facing that and being like, okay, how can I stay interested in this? How can I not burn out doing this all the time? How do you continue making content when nobody's watching? How do you continue grinding when you're not seeing any like rewards and you're not getting positive reinforcement from anywhere else? Like, what's the solution there? Because I know that that's probably the most common thing for small, even to some mid-sized level creators, is like trying to break through, but you're stuck. We've been here multiple times in the past decade. What are some things that we've done that have allowed us to break through those hurdles? Ross, can you remember one of the most specific that we got through?
Yeah, the most recent one, actually, this is very recent, and I hope you guys don't even get mad at me. You're not, because the whole point of us doing this podcast is to share our struggles and to share what we're going through and what we do to change when we hit plateaus. We recently kind of thought that we're like, okay, it's looking like we're about to hit this plateau. This is very recent, so we got together and we put a whole new strategy together for this podcast. And sometimes that's what you're going to have to do too. Maybe it's not necessarily that you need to be streaming every single day. Maybe it's about changing it up and not streaming, just creating regular content and putting that out there, or mixing it up. Maybe it's changing your social media strategy or the way you promote yourself. The first thing that I think you should do is not feel sorry for yourself, but really actually just remove yourself from the situation and and just pretend that you're a coach, that you're coaching somebody else on becoming a live streamer or a content creator, and then look at their strategy, have it on paper, and then give them advice. Give yourself advice as if you were giving it to somebody else. Because a lot of times it's easier. It's a lot easier to give somebody else advice when you don't know what drags them down, when you don't know the things they don't like to do or the things they do like to do. When you know the things that you like to do, or the things that you don't like to do, subconsciously you're going to be telling yourself in this strategy, well, I don't like doing this, so I'm not going to do that. No, you have to remove yourself from the situation and do what's best. Our biggest opponent, our biggest rival, or so on in the content creation space is yourself. You have to be able to beat yourself. You have to be able to look past your ego. You have to be able to look past the things that you like and don't like, and do what works, and do what the right thing is for your strategy. So my preference would be the first step: remove yourself from the situation, overlook your strategy, what you're doing, and make the necessary changes, not based on what you like to do and what you don't like to do, but what you've observed that's working for others. Am I right?
Also, you should be observing what works for you. So the example that Ross is talking about with this podcast, we've gone from 0 to a sponsored podcast with a small to mid-tier audience. It's been going well, but we plateaued for months now. We increased the amount of content. We're going to share our personal example with you so you can learn how our thought process went. Before this plateau we're currently at, we weren't growing fast at all. We completely changed the format of this podcast from audio only to a live video podcast, going from 1 episode per week to 5 episodes per week. So that's lesson number 1 for all of you. If you're not growing as fast as you want to grow, then increase the amount of content you're making to as much as humanly possible. We 500% increased the amount of content we're making to accelerate growth. As soon as we did that, we just shot up 45-degree angle growth, and then we hit another plateau. Once we hit that plateau, we started getting demotivated after a couple months because we weren't growing anymore. Then we took a look at our analytics and our numbers, now that we have hundreds of pieces of content out there, and we looked at what types of episodes are people clicking on, and which types of episodes have, and what is our average view duration on our content. And it turns out that people want to watch like 5 minutes or so of our podcast, not 30 minutes. So what do you do in those scenarios? When you look at your YouTube analytics, when you look at your Facebook analytics, when you look at your analytics and the numbers tell you truth, they tell you people only want to watch your content for this amount of time, or people only want to watch these types of videos from you. You have a decision to make right there. And your decision is, do I do what is going to make me successful and grow? Or do I just keep doing what I'm doing right now and hope that a miracle happens? I bet that's where every single one of you guys are at right now that are not growing. Do I do what I know is going to make me grow? Do I play that game maybe I don't like as much? Do I cover those topics maybe I don't like as much that are going to make me grow? Do I shorten my content up and put it in the format that I know is going to work? Do I make those clickbait thumbnails and titles that I know are going to work, but I'm resisting it? Are you going to do the things that you've been resisting that you know are going to work, but you just don't want to for whatever bullshit reasons for yourself? If you can push through that hurdle and you can actually do the thing that you know is going to work, then you'll start growing again. So in our example, we did 5 podcasts per week, these live podcasts. We may reduce that number, and we're actually going to release tutorial videos in some of our programming slots because we know that's what audiences may want, because they want shorter content from us. So we're pivoting our strategy again to go after success, to go after growth. But we are having to kind of let go of what we really like doing, which is just jibber jabbering about whatever on the podcast, to go do that kind of content and to kind of get over ourselves and just listen to the numbers and listen to the truth. So the thing to take away there is, are you listening to the numbers and are you listening to the truth? And have you released enough content to be able to even know what the truth is? If you've only released 10, 20, 30 pieces of content, you don't have enough data to look at the numbers and to look at the truth. You need to release 50, 100, 150 before you even have enough to look at in terms of analytics and analysis. But YouTube will tell you the truth in terms of how long people want to watch your content and which topics they want to watch. And as soon as you know that information, only do those topics and make your videos exactly that long. It's really that simple. Are you willing to make those changes? If not, then you're not willing to grow. That's on you, not the platforms. That's on you, not the algorithms. That's in your control. Know what I'm saying?
So I also want to add, this is something I've noticed us working together. We've been working together and doing this type of work in the creator industry for over a decade. So it's easy to forget about this sometimes. But not everybody has a network of other creators that they're working directly with. And I would say one of the ways to get through the hurdle of grinding endlessly with no traction or very little traction and results is to be doing so in tandem with other creators every day, because they'll hold you accountable. So taking this podcast, for example, this is collaborative, but with the podcast, if I wake up one morning and I really, really don't feel like doing the podcast, I'm compelled to do so anyway, because I don't want to let down Ross and I don't want to let down AWOL. Even if I'm not feeling it that morning, I'm going to kind of just let that slide and take one for the team so I can not ruin the cast and be a part of it. And that actually, then I end up surprising myself. I join the cast and I really like the topic and it ends up going great anyway. So I am held accountable just by working with other people. This happens with my live stream too. I'll get viewers who like the fact that I go through Facebook Gaming and I experiment with different things. They'll go experiment too, and then they'll report to me. So whenever I'm burnt out and I'm not sure if I can do another Facebook Gaming stream, I'm compelled to do so because I have a viewer who said they tested something, and the day before I said, "Oh, I will test something too and get back to you." So I'm compelled to go stream. I'm compelled to go be a creator for the people in my community and for the creators I'm working with. So it's extremely important for you to network and find at least one or two other creators that you talk with every single day. You bounce ideas off of them. You work collaboratively with them. You give them feedback on their channel. Don't make it all just about you. And it's important also to have that outside look at your decision making, because sometimes you get so into it that your ideas aren't good anymore, and you need someone to pull you out and say, "Hey, that idea doesn't make any sense. Why are you doing that? That doesn't match with the numbers, whatever. Like, what are you even thinking? Explain it to me." Right? Sometimes you need to have the second opinion. Sometimes you need to have somebody else having a take on what you're doing to help you out and to keep you accountable. So networking, working with other creators is extremely important. Maybe one of the most important things to get through that grind and to be more successful.
Agreed. And look, guys, our podcast is sponsored by Restream.io. And we want to thank Restream for keeping us accountable. So another thing about accountability, we have a sponsor. We promised them a certain number of episodes. And so we have to deliver because we signed a contract to deliver. And go ahead and post that information in chat, Ross. But if you guys want to maximize your growth as a live streamer, streaming to all platforms, especially when you're starting out, especially when you're starting to grow, is the best way to connect with all of the audience that you've built across everything, whether that be Twitter or Twitch or YouTube and what have you. And speaking of motivation, it is extremely demotivating to stream to nobody, to stream to a chat that is completely empty, to try to stay perky, to try to stay entertaining, to try to keep it going. But if you can restream to all of your avenues where all of your followers are across the internet, you're going to at least have a couple people there to interact with, and that gets your motivation levels up. Restream.io is that solution. We use it every single time we stream this podcast. Trovo, DLive, YouTube, the whole line. And it helps keep us motivated because we see audiences on YouTube chatting with us. We see you guys on Twitter. We see you guys on Facebook and even on Twitch, DLive, and Trovo as well. And it helps keep us motivated knowing that there are people across the internet and that we are doing everything we can in terms of this live stream to grow it and to reach as many people as possible. Restream can help keep that motivation up. Trust me. There's nothing worse than streaming to Twitch and trying to start from scratch with 0 people there. There's a million threads on Reddit all about that. So speaking of accountability, sure, a sponsor can keep you accountable, but I think that one thing that can help you with motivation significantly is to not try to stream immediately. This is something that a lot of people do as like their way of growing. Streaming doesn't really grow people very fast. Sometimes there are exceptions where Facebook gaming as a platform will juice you in the algorithm. Sometimes there are exceptions where you're somebody like Dr. Disrespect and you can bust through the algorithm because you're so wildly entertaining. But if you're starting out just, I'm going to be a streamer and I'm going to stream and grow, you are setting yourself up for huge motivation challenges over and over and over again. There's a daily post on the Twitch subreddit, the YouTube gaming subreddit, and the former Mixer subreddit about that. How I've been streaming to 0 viewers for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, whatever it may be, or I finally just got my first viewer or whatever. You're setting yourself up for motivation challenges and maybe motivation failure. The guaranteed way, nearly guaranteed way, to actually get audience and to acquire audience as a small creator is to do searchable content on YouTube in particular for your particular niche. All of you guys are out there are experts on something. If you're live streaming a game, you're probably an expert on that game on some level, and creating tutorial videos or how-to videos on that particular game or on that particular subject that you're covering, and then releasing those on YouTube, you're almost guaranteed to get some views, some audience, some comments, and some feedback from the internet when you release that content on YouTube. So one thing I'd warn you guys about is saying, I'm going to go stream my way to success. You're basically saying, I'm going to go stream my way into hundreds of streams where I'm very demotivated because I'm not growing. You're nearly guaranteeing that you're putting yourself in that situation. Whereas if you go the videos route first, you're nearly guaranteeing that you're going to get some level of growth if you have good titles, good thumbnails, and good research per all of the tips we've been giving you on this podcast. And you're setting yourself up to be motivated every day. When you pull up your phone, you look at your YouTube studio and you're like, oh yeah, there's the comments. There's the audience. There's people that actually care about me and think my content is relevant. That can build you up and that can give you that motivation you need every single day. So making VODs, searchable VODs on YouTube is a much easier path. If you're somebody who quits whatever they start often, go videos first, not streaming first. Trust me. Build your audience with the videos first, then transfer those to streaming. And that can keep you in the game for much longer, for many more years. What do you think, Ross?
Yeah, I think, well, number one, I agree. Number two, I think it's incredibly important to understand that when you're huffing and puffing before you're about to do your live stream, like, congratulations, you're doing it even though you're unmotivated. But guess what? That unmotivated attitude absolutely 100% shows on your streams too. When people, new viewers and stuff, when they come in and they see that you're demotivated, even if you think you aren't acting like it, you've automatically lost the potential to bring a long-term fan or viewer onto your platform. You got to be, it's more or less about keep staying motivated, and controlling your burnout is not only about just pushing yourself through to do it, but you have to be able to control your mind, because it really does show. I turn on streams all the time and I see people who clearly don't want to be there. They have like 2 or 3 viewers, and that could be one of the reasons why is, but one thing that I always do to kind of motivate myself, and this is something that my dad taught me, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying towards the beginning of this episode, AWOL. Life is short. My dad always tells me to do what I love, because at the end of my life, the final thought I have on this earth is not going to be about how much money is in my bank account. So I always try and look at this, the final thought analysis. When my time has come, and whenever that may be, what do I want my final thought on this adventure of content creating and streaming to be? I can guarantee you it's not going to be about the amount I had a whole bunch of viewers and stuff like that. That's not going to be it. It's going to be about how much you enjoyed it. It's going to be about how much it grew you as a person. So that's one way to always motivate yourself and kind of see the real angle of why you're doing anything. Look at and think about what you think your final thought on this earth about this venture is going to be.
Geez, that's super heavy, but it's so incredibly true. That is good wisdom. Do what you love. It's so generic, but like all the big creators that you see interviews with, they're like, do what you love and you'll make it. It's like, you're like, come on. Like, that's obviously not all you did. It's not all they did. That's true. But the ones that ended up making it are usually the ones that stayed in the game for a really long time. 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and eventually made it down the road after pushing through thousands of hurdles and thousands of times of them thinking, should I quit? Tom Nash is in chat right now. Tom Nash released YouTube videos that were getting maybe hundreds of views-ish, something like that on his YouTube channel, until eventually hundreds of videos later, years later, he found the niche that he's in right now, where he's doing financial analysis, busting gurus, and using his finance background to now make videos that get tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of views. So Tom is an example of pushing through those challenges, pushing through the maybe demotivation of releasing a video and having it get 90 views and you're like, what the hell? And finally finding his niche after years, after thousands of hours of work. Are you guys ready for thousands of hours of work? Well, there are ways to shorten that timeline. And one of those ways is having me help coach you, because I've been literally coaching creators, helping them go full-time for a living for the last 10 years. Perrin, if you could pull up that website for me, awoldigital.com is my website. You go to my website and you can book me for one-on-one coaching. You just jump on the website, you click the freaking button, and I will jump on a call with you, 100% satisfaction guarantee. You jump on there, you tell me your challenges, you share with me your different avenues that you're using to create content, and then I will create a plan with you for you to grow as fast as possible, for you to figure out what your best topics are, what your best niche is, and how you can hopefully shave off years on your timeline to do what you love to do for a living, or at least make a supplemental income doing it. Go make content every day, push through, look at the reality and look at the answers that your analytics are telling you, and you can get there. You can, but it might take a lot longer than you think. That's just the situation. That's just the reality of it. We're here for you. Tweet at us if you need more motivation at Digital Drop Pod. I will be checking my phone all day and replying to you.